Hello everyone, this is the video for week 3 for the course of teaching grammar. Chapter 2, section 3 talks about 10 different grammar labels that we use when working with sentence structures. These labels, as you see them on the screen, are very important and we're going to cover each one of them as we move along. The first one is the sentence. The sentence is considered as the group of words that has a subject and a predicate. Subjects are divided into simple subjects and complete subjects. The simple subject is going to be the most important word in the subject. In this case, it's always going to be a noun or pronoun. It is a word that if we take out from the sentence, we are not going to understand who the subject of the sentence is. The complete subject includes all the words, including the noun and its modifiers that make up the subject of the sentence. The predicate, on the other hand, is going to be also divided into two parts, simple predicate and complete predicate. The simple predicate is the verb, the action. Again, if we take the verb out of the sentence, we're not going to understand what it refers to. The complete predicate includes the verb and its modifiers, normally prepositional phrases and adverb forms. Let's take a look at this sentence. The girl wearing a blue jacket is always chewing gum noisily. If we analyze it, the simple subject is going to be the word girl, the complete subject, the girl wearing a blue jacket. The simple predicate is chewing, and finally, complete predicate is always chewing gum noisily. The second type of grammar label that the chapter talks about is the verbs that are followed by an object, a noun or pronoun. So these objects are divided into. The first one is the direct object. The direct object happens when the object is the receiver of the action. So for example, we have that sentence, I ate pizza. I ask, what did you eat? And the answer is pizza. The object that receives the action of being eaten is the word pizza, and that is why pizza is the direct object. The other object is the indirect object, and this one refers to whom or for whom the action was done. We are never going to have an indirect object without a direct object, okay? So let's look at the example. She gave John a book. What did John receive? A book. That would be that direct object. And John is the one receiving the book. So he becomes the indirect object. Based on the presence or absence of the direct object, verbs are going to be classified into transitive or intransitive verbs. A transitive verb is going to take a direct object, as I said it before. Some examples are break, bring, climb, contain, discuss, enjoy. So, what did you break? A window. What did you bring? A book. What did you climb? A mountain. What did it contain? Food. What did you discuss? The information. What did you enjoy? Vacations. There's always a direct object that goes along with these verbs. Common mistakes: adding a preposition that shouldn't be there. For example, we discussed about the movie. The correct thing would be to say, we discussed the movie. And omitting the indirect object. She liked very much. We would have to say she liked it very much. The other type of verb is the intransitive verb. This intransitive verb doesn't have a direct object. Some examples: complain, consist, die, emerge, happen, occur, etc. Common mistakes: using the incorrect preposition. Look at the example we have there. The assignment depends off the video. And this is a very common mistake that we Spanish speakers make. Instead of off, we have to use the preposition on. So we're going to say the assignment depends on the video. There is a third group of verbs. And these are the verbs that, depending on the context, can be transitive or intransitive. For example, begin. So we say, the show begins at 9. That would be an intransitive verb. Or, I will begin my homework later. That would be the transitive form. Another example, you see it there. I left the keys home. What did you leave? The keys, direct object, transitive verb. She left this morning to work. That's intransitive because we don't know what she left, right? A phrase now is going to be defined as a group of words that does not contain both a subject and a predicate. So they're either going to be subjects or predicates. There are three types of phrases. Noun phrases, which take the position of a noun. So whatever he wants to know, that will be a phrase, a noun phrase. Verb phrase has been written, and the prepositional phrase in that book or in your hand. Clauses, on the other hand, are a synonym for the term sentence. Okay, they are a group of words with both a subject and a verb. However, not all sentences can have meaning by themselves, and that's why we classify them into independent and dependent clauses. As you see on the slide, the independent clause is going to have a subject of a verb. It's going to express a complete thought and can stand on its own. Look at the example. My cat has a toy that he loves very much. Okay, that sentence, everybody understands it. It has meaning on its own. If you look at the other one, the dependent clause, it says it has a subject as a verb and a verb, as the independent clause, but the changes come after. It does not express a complete thought and it cannot stand on its own. Look at the example, because it is raining. If I say that, you're going to wonder what's going to happen. What? Because it is raining, we're not going to have class. Because it is raining, she needs to take an umbrella. So this sentence is in the need of another sentence to get the meaning. Clauses can be classified into three types. Adverb clauses, which are going to answer questions like when, where, why, with, what result, or under what conditions. And they're going to start with coordinating conjunctions. Adjective clauses, which are going to tell you which one, and they're going to start with relative pronouns. And noun clauses, which are going to take the position of the subject, and they are going to answer questions like who, whom, or what. And some of the words that we can use to identify them are that, what, when, who, why, where, and whether. Sentences can also be classified according to how they are made up. The first group is simple sentences, which are basic sentences made up of one subject, one predicate, one independent clause. You see the example there, he plays soccer. Compound sentences, on the other hand, are going to be made up of two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. There's a comma and the conjunction. So he can come to the party, but he has to do homework first. We have two sentences there. A complex sentence is going to have one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. He decided to come after he made sure he had money. Okay? So we have one independent clause, he decided to come, and the dependent one after he made sure he had money. And the last type is a compound complex sentence in which you mix two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Look at the example. Because it was snowing, the cat slept on the couch. That would be the first idea. What is the second one? And the dog slept on my bed. When we write, there are mistakes that we normally make, and we have to pay attention to them. Random sentences are two sentences, 2, 3, 4, or 5 sentences put together and just connected by a comma. How do we correct these sentences? Well, you can add a comma and a conjunction. You can add a subordinating conjunction. You can add a semicolon. You can make two separate sentences, or you can add a transitional word or phrase. The other type is fragments. Instead of having too many sentences together, we don't even have one sentence. A fragment is an incomplete sentence, and what you do with the fragment is that you remove the period and connect the fragment to the main clause. A comma splice has two parts, but the writer puts a comma between them without a connecting word. How would you correct this? Well, you have several options. You can add a coordinating conjunction, a subordinating conjunction, you change the comma to semicolon, you make two sentences, and you add a transitional word or phrase. Why do we need to know this? Well, when we work with our students' writing or with our own writing, we need to pay attention to these mistakes. Section 4 deals with the verb tenses, and we're not going to go too deep into this. Basically, what we need to know here is that a verb has 4 parts: the base form, past participle, and the present participle, and that there are 12 verb tenses. Okay, these 12 verb tenses, teachers need not only to focus on teaching students the formula, but most importantly, they have to make sure that the students know how to use them. Most of the things that happen to us is that we know the formula, but we don't know how to use the verb. And that's what we really need to do. So we got to the end of the chapter. I hope you could review the most important information. Just remember that if there are any questions you have to bring them to class, because we're going to discuss this in class. And I'll just leave you with that comic there. Thinking about the 4 errors that we make, the 4 mistakes, comma splashes, random sentences, and those things. Well, look what would happen to poor grandma if we didn't use our punctuation correctly. Goodbye.